Welcome to Alyvix. This video tutorial is a complete example of building and running a test case for Dynamic AX. In this video, we'll see what a complete visual monitoring run of Dynamics AX looks like, focusing on the warehouse management module and at advanced filtering and the use of command line arguments. When you want to monitor AX performance over time, Alyvix Robot will run test cases you've created. Here we'll launch Robot with a test case that navigates to the warehouse management database, creates an advanced filter to narrow down active loads, and checks that the database is returning results properly. The test case also inserts a string argument from the command line into the interface, allowing you to change the filter without altering the test case itself. Finally, the test case leaves AX in the same state as when Robot started, even if there are failed cases. To start off, our test case first needs to launch AX, so let's show Alyvix how to find the AX desktop shortcut and launch it. It's important to make sure that the interface is a standard size, so the next step is typically to maximize the AX window. We've already shown this in previous videos, so we'll skip it here. Our next important task is to navigate to the particular module you want to monitor. Dynamics AX provides two methods, clicking on a section icon and then selecting the interface from the index, or directly typing the interface's path into the address bar. We'll use the first command line argument to select the module to use. Instead of directly inserting a string into the address bar path, we'll use the special braces notation and a default argument as shown here to indicate it should be extracted from the command line. We can see over and over a pattern that's typical when using Alyvix Editor. You first create a screen grab, then identify important areas on the screen either as anchors or as screen elements to interact with, then add any mouse and keyboard input for those interactions, tell Alyvix what the name of this step is, how to measure the results, and finally give it a quick test to make sure it all works. Buttons and text fields can float depending on factors like window resizing and even font size. Alyvix uses groups, distinguished by the color of the crosshairs and selection boxes, to separate components in terms of their relative position. Here we use two groups to separate the panel anchor in red from the filtering controls in green. In general, it's best practice to use a separate group for window controls, because they can move when the window size changes. This next step fills in the first half of an advanced filter. Now we'll use three groups, for the anchor, the filtering table, and a button at the right side, so we can add an additional filter component. In Dynamics AX, the mouse isn't the only way you can interact with the interface. You can also direct keyboard input to the active window or component, using the full range of special characters, including with the Control, Alt, and Windows keys. Here we use Dynamic AX's Control plus right cursor combination to select the existing text in the field, overwrite it, tab to the next field, and insert a value there too. Finally, we click on the Add button so that we can extend our advanced filter with another condition. As before, we'll use two groups to account for the fact that the space between interface elements can vary. We'll again use special keys to insert the values into the second filter condition, and add the Enter key so that we don't need to find and click on the OK button. This time, however, we'll get the filter argument from the command line, using the 2 to indicate the second argument, followed by a default value in case the argument isn't supplied. This way, if the code changes, we can just change the arguments instead of re-editing our test case. Once our table is filtered, we can finally start drilling down into some details, so we'll select an anchor and a column header. Then we'll set the point to whatever is in the third row and double-click on that field to bring up the panel containing the record details. Now we can tell Alyvix what the name of this step should be, what the time limit should be, and that we don't need to measure the results. Finally, we can add this step to the script and give it a quick test to make sure that it all works. Let's drill down even further into this record so we can set up a check that the results were returned properly. We'll use our standard two groups since we're working with a table again. This time, let's set the point to the first row and then double-click on the field there. We're setting up for the final check in this tutorial, and double-clicking will cause the final window to pop up. We just need to remember for later when creating our exit script that we will need to remove this window so that it won't be visible next time when we run this test case. Our last step is to check that the details window has the expected form. Once we've checked that all the expected interface elements are there and in the correct position, we can also save some time by closing the window right away. All we need to do is double-click on the window icon serving as our anchor. This is the most important check of our test case, so we set a high timeout and leave the measure box checked, because we want to see how long this step took. We've seen in our other Dynamics AX videos that it's important to clean up any resources we used, since we'll likely use Robot to run the test case every few minutes. We do this with two separate scripts at the end, the fail script, which runs if any step with the break flag set didn't match, and the exit script, which runs automatically when the main script concludes. Thanks for watching this Alyvix video tutorial. Be sure to check out the Alyvix website, blog, and user guide at these links.